Hilchos Rotzeach Perek Achadasar, chapter 11, Aleph. In this parak, we're going to explain the mitzvah of a ma'aka, of a guardrail on the roof, and different prohibitions the Chachamim placed because of sakana. Aleph. Mitzvah asay lasis adam ma'aka lagaga. It's a positive commandment for a man to build a guardrail. Shenemar, as it says, v'asisa ma'aka lagagecha. The Torah says that you shall make a guardrail, a gather for your roof. Ushia beis dira, this applies with regards to a building used as a dwelling. Aval beis ha'yitzaris u beis ha'bakar k'yitzaben ein zakuflei. A warehouse or a cattle barn or something similar, that's not mechuyev. V'chol bayis she'ein by arba amis al arba amis pater min ha'maka. Any building that's not 4 by 4, 6 feet, which is not royal ledira, is pater from a guardrail. Beis bayis shel shnei shutfen chayavim b'maka. A house owned by 2 partners requires a makeh. Shenemar ki yipol hanefel mimenu. Torah says, for one who falls, may certainly fall from it. Like Tala Ela B'nefal, the Torah stems the obligation from the fact that one may fall. In Kolel Nemer Gad Gecha, why does the Torah say your roof? They might, but the Knesiyos, but the Midrashis, to exclude shuls or house of studies, she'einam asuyin l'dira, which are not intended to serve as dwellings. If the Reshus Harabim is higher than a person's roof, he does not need to make a makeh. As the Torah says, to prevent people from falling from the roof and not onto the roof. Gimel. Goiva hamakeh in pachas ma'asar tvachim teshlo yipol mimenu hanefel. The height of the makeh should not be any less than 10 tvachim, so that a person who might fall will not fall from it. The makeh has to be a partition strong enough to enable a person to lean on it without falling. Anyone who leaves his roof open without a makeh negates the observance of a mitzvah aseh and violates a negative leis aseh. Shenemar, as it says, do not cause blood to be spilled in your home. You don't get malchus on this because there's no maisa. This requirement applies to roof and similarly to any place that might present a danger and cause a person to stumble and die. For example, if a person has a well or a cistern in his chutzner, in his courtyard, he may erect a sand wall 10 tvachim high around them or make a cover for them so that the person will not fall and die. So mitzvah say to remove any obstacle that can pose a danger to life and to be careful regarding these matters. As it says, beware for yourself and guard your soul. If a person leaves the dangerous obstacles and does not remove it, he is mevatel a mitzvah saseh over b'leisasim damim, and his over on do not cause blood to be spilled. Hey, the Chacham forbade many matters because they involve sakanas nefashos. If a person says, I'll risk my life, it doesn't matter where others, what does matter to others, or I'm not careful about these things, he should be given makis mardis. And who is that? A person should not place his mouth over a conduit through which water flows and drinks. A person should not drink from rivers and lakes. Maybe he'll swallow a leech without seeing. A person should not drink water that was left uncovered. Perhaps a snake drink from there. Okay, so by things that like poisonous quality animals might have drunk from it. These are the liquids that are forbidden if left uncovered. Water and wine. Or wine whose flavor has begun to change to vinegar. And milk. And honey. And brine. Other liquids are not forbidden if left uncovered because venomous animals will not drink from them. When garlic has been crushed or watermelon cut open, it's usher to eat from it. The Isra against Gila does not apply to wine has been boiled, unfermented wine. What does unfermented wine mean? It means from the time it was squeezed from the grapes until 3 days have passed. The Teichan Tipa Achar Tipa Wushia Tedev Yer Kol Elo in Behem Mishum Gilei. Shazech La'afram Misyarim Bibua Mashkem and Abel Vein Mashason. The Isra against drinking Gilei beverages does not apply to wine, water, and milk that are hot to the extent that vapor rises from them, nor to liquids into which liquid is descended from drop, provided a liquid continuously descends. For crawling animals fear bubbles and vapor and will not drink from them. Test me make kvashin and mishlakas and make tunmasin in Behem Mishum Gilei. Gila does not apply to water used for pickling, cooked food, or cooking vetch. Mayim sheshana ben kvashim mishlokes for tumusin in mishtana time ein ben mishum gilei. The Isra does not apply to pickled food, cooked food, or vetch that have been left to soak in water. Remain bahem neisen tam asun. If they're not neisen tam, then they're asun. V'chein mayim sheidir bahem prishin v'dan muskin latela asun mishum gilei. Water which the quince and Syrian pears were washed for a sick person is forbidden if left uncovered. Yud yayish nischaber beit varim chaden ki pilpulinoid varim marim ki af sankin at shenistana taimim im mishum gilei. The Isra against gilei does not apply with sharp tasting substances like pepper. Bitter substances like wormwood are mixed with wine to the extent that its flavor changes. The when we say that it's usher, it's forbidden whether it was left uncovered in the day or night, and this applies even when a person was sleeping besides the liquid. The common issue we for why because crawling animals are not afraid of sleeping men. The common issue we for how long must the liquid be left uncovered to be forbidden? For as long as it takes for a crawling animal to emerge from under the container, drink, and return to this place. The quantity of water that becomes forbidden if uncovered, the amount which the venom could remain a distinct entity and cause damage, danger. If there is so much that the venom will be nullified as if it does not exist, the water is permitted. This applies to water contained in utensils of the ground. The same applies to other liquid. The Isra against Gilei does not apply to a stream that is following even slightly. When a container of wine is left uncovered in a chest or a closet or a large container in a pit that is even 100 amos deep, in a tower that's 100 amos high, or in a hall that is ornamented with plaster, it's also. It's mutter. Sorry. If there is a hole, it's also kamiya benekav. How big is the hole? Large enough for a child to insert his finger. When a jug is left uncovered, a person should not drink from it. Even 9 people drink from it without dying. There was a story that occurred, and it was reported that the 10th person who drank from a jug died. Why? Because the venom of the snake sank to the bottom of the jug. There's a venom from some crawling animals that rises to the surface of liquids, and other venom that becomes suspended in the middle. Everything is forbidden. This applies even when filtered the liquid with a filter. When a watermelon was left uncovered, even 9 people partook of it without dying. A 10th should not partake of it. That's about mayim shenis gala leishbechin l'shus harabim le'yarbitz behemes abayis le'yigabel behemes atiz le'yirches be'empanav v'yadav raglav le'yashkemen le'behemtev le'behes chaveri of a mashka isa dechosel. Water that is left uncovered should not be poured into a shus harabim. nor should it be used to settle the dust of a home, nor should it be used to mix mortar, nor should it be used to wash a person's face, to water one's animal belonging to a friend. It may, however, be used to water a cat. Tazayin last halacha the perek isa sheniloisha b'mayim megulin afilu shishal truma tisaref afilu nefes apasasur. When dough has become mixed with water that has been left uncovered, it should be burned. This applies even if the dough was truma, even if it has been baked, it's forbidden.
Hilchos Rotzeach Perek Shnei Maser. We're holding now the 12th Perek. Aleph, Behema Chaya Eif Sheneshochan Hanachosh Ukayetzabai. When an animal, a beast, or a chicken has been bitten by a snake, Oish Ochlu Sam Hamemis Ha'adam Kedem Shishtana Begufan, or it ate poison that killed a person, and the nature of that poison has not changed in the animal's body, Asurim Mishum Sakanas Nefashis, it's Asur Mitzat Sakanas Nefashis. The figure, therefore, Behema chayav eif shenitzocha tuchei raglayim. If an animal or behema chayav eif was found with its feet cut, aval b'shem utar mishum treifa. Even though they're permitted mishum treifa, hari elo asura mishum sakana. It's asur because it's sakana. Shemel echod mizechle offer neshochan ad shibadku. Because it's possible that a poisonous crawling animal bit it. Keitzad beikin. How should meat be checked? Tzela isim betaner. It should be roasted in the oven. If the meat does not break into pieces or react differently from ordinary roast meat, it's acceptable. Figs, and zucchini, and grapes, and zucchini, cucumbers, and watermelons, or cucumbers, even if they're very big, whether they're disconnected or they're connected, even if they're in the b'seicha, if it has moist, and there's a bite over there, it's asur shema nachash, because perhaps I'm worried that a snake ate it. Even if a person saw a bird or a rat sitting and making holes in the fruit, it's asur shema b'mkeim nekav nikav. Perhaps they made the hole in the place of the existing hole. Gimel, ta'ena, oy eina, shenital ha'ikit shalahen, ein bahem mishum gilei. When the stem of a grape or a fig has been removed, so it's not considered gilei. Fikach, therefore, eichel adam ta'enim va'anavim balayla v'einei cheshesh. Therefore, a person may eat figs and grapes at night without being concerned. Ta'enin nekurish yavsha v'nasas geregedis, u'tamara nekurish yavsha. A fig that has a hole but dried to the extent that it can be considered a dried fig, and a date that has had a hole and dries, so then mutaris they are permitted. It's forbidden for a person to place coins or dinarim in his mouth. Maybe there be the remnants of dried spittle from a leper or a mitzera, or sweat on them. All sweat of a person is poisonous except for the face. A person should not place the palm of his hand under the armpits, lest his hands have touched a leper or a poisonous substance, for hands are active. A person should not place cooked dish under the couch, even though he is in the midst of a meal, lest an entity that could harm him fall into the food without him noticing. A person should not stick a knife into an esrog or a radish, lest the person fall on a point and die. It's forbidden for a person to pass under a wall that is leaning, or a shaky bridge, or enter a ruin. All the rest of the sakonis, it's dangerous for these or other reasons. Halacha Zayin. V'chein asur liyehudi lisyachid ma'akum. It's forbidden for a yid to enter into privacy with a goy. V'chein shein chashudim al shvichas damim, because they are suspected for bloodshed. V'lo yislava yimoyim b'derech. A person should not accompany a goy on a way. Paga akum b'derech masad yiminei. If a goy encounters a yid encounters a goy on a journey, you should make sure the goy is at his right. They're making an ascent or a descent together. The yid should be careful that he should be in the higher position and the goy in the lower position, but not vice versa. Nor should a Jew bend down before a goy lest he crush his skull. Halacha ches, im shaloi la'an ata hilech, yachiv le'es derech sheyichiv yankiv le'esiv. When a goy asks a yid, where is he going, you should give him a misleading answer, as Yaakov gave to Esav. Shenemar, as it says, Ada sheyavi el adoni seira, until I come to my master in Seir. Tes, osra likach refuah min ha'akum, elim ken isyashu mimenu sheyicheh. It's forbidden to take medication from a goy, unless there is no hope that the sick person will live. Vasili srapes min ha'apikoiris, it's forbidden to be healed by a apikeris, even if there is no hope that the person will live. It's permitted to take medication from a goy for an animal or for an external affliction, compress or a bandage. If, however, the affliction involves danger in life, it's aser. Any medication from a goy or for any medication which mechal on Shabbos, him, you cannot get misrapa. Yud. It's permitted to ask the opinion of a goy and follow his directives as if he says, this drug is good for you, you should perform these and these treatments. But one should not take prescription from him directly. It's forbidden to have one's hair cut by a guy in a private domain, because maybe he'll kill you. If the person whose hair is being cut, it's important. It's an important person. It's permitted because the guy will be afraid to kill him. It's also permitted for a person who creates an impression of being an important persona for a goy barber, so that he will fear him and not kill him, to have his hair cut by him. Base. Also Yud base. Also limker la'akum kol kli ha'machama. It's forbidden to sell goyim any weaponry. We may not sharpen weapons for them or sell them in knife, chains put on the necks of prisoners. So you're not allowed to sharpen weapons for them or sell them a knife, chains put on the necks of prisoners, fetters, iron chains, raw Indian irons, bears, lions, or any other object that can cause danger to people at large. One may, however, sell them shields, for they serve only for the purpose of defense. Just as it's forbidden to sell such weaponry to a goy, so too it's forbidden to sell it to a yid who will sell it to a goy. It's permitted to sell weapons to the soldiers of the country in which one lives, because they defend the Jewish inhabitants of the land. Every article that is forbidden to be sold to a goy is also forbidden to be sold to a Jewish robber, for by doing so, one reinforces a transgressor and causes him to sin. Anyone who causes a person who is blind with regards to a certain matter to stumble and give him improper advice, or who reinforces a aver who is spiritually blind, for he does not see the path of death because of the desires of heart. When a person comes to ask advice for you, give him proper counsel. It's forbidden to give good advice to a wicked guy or a servant. It's even forbidden to counsel him to observe the mitzvah if he perseveres his wickedness. V'nisnasa Daniel ela al shehisi eitz levunechanetzar litin tzedakah. Daniel was subjected to a test solely because he advised Nebuchadnezzar to give him tzedakah. Shenemar Elohen Malka Milka Yishbach Alach. Except to you, redeem your sin through charity. Halacha Hilchos Rotzeach Ushmiras Nefesh. We're holding now the last Perek. We're going to finish now the Sefer Nezikin. Aleph Misha Pasha B'Chaveda B'Derech B'Hem Terevetzas Tachas Maso. When a person encounters a friend who's on his journey and his animal has fallen under his load. Ben Shahayaleh Masar Ula Ben Shahayaleh Yeser Maso. Harizem Mitzvah Lifrik Maleh. So it doesn't matter. He has to help the person with his burden. The supply is whether the animal was carrying a burden appropriate or a burden greater than it could bear. Shnemar, as it says, Ozav Tasib Ima, you shall surely help him. One should not unload the animal and depart, leaving the person in panic. You have to help the person reload. If one leaves the wayfarer in panic without either unloading or reloading, so one has negated the observance of a positive mitzvah, and there's Abraham mitzvahs leisaseh. As it says, you should not see the donkey of your brother and conceal yourself. If a kohen sees an animal fallen in the cemetery, he does not get tummy, he does not make himself tummy. Just as he does not contract tuma with regard to lost objects. If he's an elder whose practice is not to unload and load the animals, since it's beneath his dignity, he's not chayv. This is a general rule. If the animal were his own and he would unload and reload, he's obligated to unload and reload for his friend. If he's pious and goes beyond the measure of the law, even if he's a great nasi and sees an animal belonging to a friend fallen under a load or straw, reasons the like, he should unload and load it with its owner. Hey, if one unloaded and reloaded the animal and it fell again, one is obligated to unload and reload it again, even 100 times. For this reason, a person must accompany the animal for a parsa unless the owner of the burden says that he's not necessary. When does one become obligated to unload and reload together with the owner? When he sees a fallen animal in a way that can be described as a pkiya. Shnemar ki sira, as it says when you see. V'nemar ki tifke, when you encounter. V'kama, and how far is the distance? Shira chachamim mishiyah b'neim masayim shishim v'sheish ama shnei shlishi ama shu echad mishiv mechza b'mil. The chacham determined as being a distance of 266 2/3 cubits, which is 1/7 of a meal. If a person was further away from a fallen animal, he's not obligated. It's a mitzvah for the Torah to unload the animal without charge. Loading it, however, is a mitzvah for which one may charge. For the time, similarly for the time when one accompanies the animal for a parsa, one may receive payment. If a person finds an animal belonging to a friend fallen under its load, even if the bailam are not with him, it's still a mitzvah to unload and reload it, even if the owner is not present. As it says, it says, you shall certainly help, you shall certainly lift, implies that one must fulfill these mitzvahs in all situations. Why does the Torah say with him, the animal's owner? Now, if let's say the owner of the animal was there and goes off on the side telling the person, since it's a mitzvah, if you would like to unload it for yourself, unload it, so then he's not chayiv to help him. If the owner of the animal was old or ailing, the passerby is obligated to load and unload the animal by himself. Im haya ha'akum mechamer acher behemde in yizakuk lei. When the animal that has fallen is owned by a goy, but the burden is carrying is owned by a yid. So if the goy is the one driving his donkey, one is not obligated towards him. If not, one is obligated to unload and reload it because of the distress suffered by the Jew. If the animal that has fallen is owned by a yid, but the burden he is carrying is owned by a goy, one is obligated to unload and reload it because of the distress suffered by a yid. But, however, both the animal and the burden are owned by a goy, the passerby is not obligated to concern himself with the animal unless there is a possibility that animosity will be aroused. When the legs of a donkey owned by one of the donkey drivers in a caravan are shaky, his friends may not proceed. If it falls, the other donkey drivers may pass him. If one donkey was laden with a burden and another was carrying a rider, so if one donkey was laden with a burden and the other was carrying a rider, and the way became too narrow for both of them, so then the rider must move to the side to allow the laden donkey to proceed. If one donkey was laden with a burden and another was burdenless, the burdenless one must move to the side to allow the laden donkey to proceed. If one carrying a rider and the other was burdenless, the burdenless one must move to the side to allow the donkey carrying a rider to proceed. If both are laden with burdens, both riders are burdenless, the owner should negotiate a compromise. There are criteria laid down when two ships that are passing through the same straits confront each other, and if they both try to pass the same time, they would sink. But they could pass one by one, or if, let's say, similarly, if two camels that are climbing on high confront each other, if they try to pass at the same time, they would fall. But so what should they do? If one was carrying cargo and another was burdenless, the burdenless one should move to the side in favor of the one who was carrying cargo. If one was close to the port of the city, from which is set out, and one was further removed, so then the one that was closer should move to the side in favor of the one that was further removed. If they are both far removed, both close, or both laden with cargo, and they both share the same difficulty, they should come to a compromise and reach a financial settlement between themselves. As it says, judge your friend with righteousness. When a person encounters two individuals, one whose donkey has fallen under his load and one whose donkey's burden has been unloaded, but who cannot find anyone to help him reload, it's a mitzvah to unload the fallen donkey first because of the discomfort suffered by the animal. And afterwards, he should reload the animal. When does this apply? When the two people he encounters are both friends or enemies. However, the one whose donkey must be reloaded is an enemy and the other is a friend, it's a mitzvah for the passerby to reload his enemy's donkey in order to subjugate his evil inclination. Yod Daled. The enemy mentioned in the Torah is not a goy but a yid. How is it possible that one yid hate another yid? Torah says you should not hate your brother in your heart. This is referring to Chazal say a person who, while alone, seeing a friend violated transgression and rebukes him, but the friend does not seize the transgression. In such a case, it's a mitzvah to hate the person until he does tshuva. Mitzvah Ashiyasa tshuva v'yasher midishu. Alpha bisha dain le'asa tshuva. Mitzvah nivo b'masa. Mitzvah litin v'lifrik imi v'lei nechena neite lamus. Shema yisha b'shu mamene yovli desakana. Even if he did not do tshuva, if one sees him in panic Because of his cargo, it's mitzvah to unload and reload him instead of leaving him inclined towards death. Maybe he tarry because of his money and be brought to danger. And the Torah was makbid on the nefesh of a yid. Ben l'shoyim ben tzadikim. Ma'achashim nilvim heim Hashem maminim beikar das. For they are attached to Hashem and believe in the fundamentals of faith. Shnemer emer aleim chai oni num Hashem alikim yemechbetz b'meis rosha kim b'shuv rosha midarke v'choyo. Say to them, as I live, says Hashem, for the Lord do I desire the death of the wicked, I desire the wicked return for the path of the live. Brich Rachman the sign, and blessed be Hashem who grants assistance. Nigmar Sefer Achadasar Bezos Hashem. We just finished now the 11th book. Minyan Prakim Shel Sefer Zeh Shnayim V'Shishim 62. Hilchos Niskei Mamin is Arba Asar Prakim is 14. Hilchos Gneva is Tisha Prakim is 9. Hilchos Gzela V'Aveda Shmena Asar Prakim is 18. Hilchos Chevel Lamazik Shmena Prakim is 8. Hilchos Rotzeach Shmeres Nefesh is Shleisha Asar Prakim is 13.